So let's get into, most importantly, what is neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP as it's known? Because we're basing a lot of the training on this, and I call them a powerful set of tools and insights for change. So let's understand what NLP actually is, because it's important. So NLP, at the end of the day, is firstly, the N stands for neuro, which directs exactly to the mind. So what is the mind? And the mind at the end of the day is literally a metaphor. Like if I asked you to point to your mind, you would probably point to here. You'd probably point to your brain, but it's not there. The mind is not there. The mind is something that you create. Now, even if you called the mind the brain, you might then point there, but that's not where your brain actually is. That's only one brain. You actually also have a heart brain. It's technically a brain. You also have a gut brain. So your gut, your heart, and your head brain have to work together if you want to achieve your goals. Because if your heart's not in it, that's where your why is, that's where your values are. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to create it. But equally, if you don't have the guts to do something, then you're not going to achieve it either. You can know what to do with your head brain, but if your heart's not in it, if you don't have the guts to take the next step, then you're not going to get it happening. So the neuro is not just the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for your thinking, your beliefs, your values, your meta programs, and I'm going to introduce you to those in a moment. So that's the neuro part. The linguistics is interesting. NLP is a no-touch process. Like, you don't have to touch a person, but you can touch a person with your words. We've all been touched. We've all been called horrible names that actually made us feel something. We've also been called good things that made us feel something too. So our linguistics is the key piece. It's the linchpin. I was in Canberra a couple of weeks ago, and I went to see the Egyptian exhibition. Now, Egyptians basically would put, when someone died, they would put on the actual tombs, they would put language. Why? Because they believed that language was a spell. If you think of the word spelling, what are you actually doing when you're spelling? You're literally putting letters together, in other words, symbols, that create meaning. Now, what we do, whether we realize it or not, our internal language, our external language is actually a spell that we're casting on ourselves every day. If you basically say every day to yourself, I am amazing. But if you say it like this, I'm amazing, it is completely different to saying, I am amazing. So we know that it's not just the words themselves. We also know it's the tonality. It's how we say it. But it's also the physiology that goes with it. So linguistics is much more than just language. But I'm going to be teaching you how to improve your language so that you improve your life, or you cast better spells on yourself. Now, the next piece is the piece that scares a lot of people: programming. The thing I actually need to share with you is you have been programmed from the very day you were born. You were programmed by what your mother said, what your father said, the language they used. You were programmed by how you were trained in the educational system. You were programmed the very first day you started work. You were programmed by your boss, by your colleagues, by others, by their language, by what they told you, what they said. Now, I'm going to increase your awareness of language massively. So you're going to start really thinking about your language, how you're using it, and what is the conditioning underneath it. So the programming piece is what creates new neural pathways. So, for example, when your linguistics expands in a particular environment, so does that environment. For example, if you want to invest, you have to expand your linguistics if you want to invest. For example, if you want to invest in real estate, you have to expand your linguistics to know what positively geared means versus negatively geared. The moment you know those words or those phrases is the moment you can do those things. They have different tax implications. So the thing is that your linguistics determines what you can and can't do. And that's why it's so important when babies are born that they learn language, because language connects people. So that's what NLP stands for. And we're going to be going deeper and deeper and deeper into the simplistic way that I've framed this. Neuro, we're going to understand the mind. We're going to utilize language, and we're going to do change work by doing the programming. So that's what NLP is essentially short for. So let me take it further. Now, the technical classification of what NLP stands for is NLP uses the language of the mind, that is how we understand languaging, to consistently achieve specific and desired outcomes. So we're going to learn how to use our language to begin to start redesigning our lives and make our lives that we want to come. So that's essentially the technical description of what NLP is. Now, people are going to ask you, no doubt you're going to be in social environments and people are going to be saying, hey, what are you up to? And you're going to be saying, hey, I'm doing this NLP course. And they will ask you, what is NLP? So you're going to have to create your own technical frame of what NLP is. You can use this. You can say NLP basically uses the language of the mind to consistently achieve specific and desired outcomes. Or you could say NLP helps you to achieve what you want in life. That's a simpler description. Or you'll create your own description as you start to understand it more and more. So basically, what it really is, it's what's known as metacognition. So metacognition is the thinking that's underneath the thinking. So in other words, you're going to come to understand why you think a certain way. And you're going to have the opportunity to change your thinking. So it's technically called metacognition. But if you're at a party and someone says, NLP, what is it? And you say it's metacognition. Most people won't know what metacognition is. But if you want to give people that frame, it's just the thinking underneath the thinking. It makes sense of why you think a certain way. And the other thing that you need to know about thinking is your thoughts create things. What you're thinking will create your next or future experience. So NLP is also strategy. So it's about choosing the ideal formula to create the ideal outcome. Let me give you an example. If, as a child, if you were encouraged, in other words, if your parents said, go for it, do it, you can do it. If you were encouraged, then you are more likely to be what most people would call an achiever, if you were encouraged. But if you were discouraged, like, oh, I wouldn't do that, or you could go broke, or you could hurt yourself, your life would turn out completely differently. So if you were encouraged and if you valued being adventurous, plus you had no trauma in your life, if this was your formula, then you could be, with this formula, you could be a courageous entrepreneur. This was exactly the formula that created Richard Branson. So Richard Branson, actually, the reason he became financially successful was because he had an aunt who was a big influence in his life. She encouraged him to stretch himself always. And the thing that she encouraged him with was money. So Richard Branson, he stretched himself to earn income. And hence that became his focus. So he became a billionaire. So that's a formula. When we look at another formula, which is the opposite, instead of being encouraged, you were discouraged. And if you were inquisitive or curious, plus you had mental trauma, then you could become, that is, after you healed the trauma, you must heal the trauma. So if that was your formula, you could become, for example, a courageous journalist. Just one outcome. There could be many outcomes, but with this formula, you could become a courageous journalist. That was exactly the formula that created Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, what most people don't know is both of them had learned NLP. Oprah Winfrey particularly had utilized NLP to really zig when most other journalists zagged. And that became her successful formula. Michael Jackson, he was disciplined by his father in a negative way. He was hurt. He associated pain with learning because he was hit by his father when he didn't hit the right note or when he didn't perform in the way that his father wanted him to. He was also adventurous, but he had lots and lots and lots of trauma, and he became, with this formula, he became a love-seeking performer because he didn't get love from his father. He didn't get love from his mother. So what he did is he got love from his fans. So this was the conditioning that turned Michael Jackson into a love-seeking performer. So as a coach, when I coach people and people say that I want to achieve, there are lots of ways to achieve. But what I've got to do as a coach is I've got to work out what was the formula that got that person there and what's going to be the formula that gets them to the next place. So much of what I'm going to be teaching you is how do you find these formulas? So NLP is actually learning which formula will help you to achieve your desired outcomes.